Okay, right there you can see fuel pump relay is number 18. Number 18 is right here. This is number 18. It's right next to that little screw right there. So here, this is our fuel pump relay. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the relay out like this. We're just going to put it here to the side for now. We're just going to put it up over here and leave this apart. And now we're going to start the vehicle up and let it run until it dies out. We're going to try one more time. Okay. All right, that's what we wanted to do. So now we know that the fuel rail is out of fuel. There's no more fuel inside the rail at all, in all three of them. All right, so what we're going to do now is first thing we're going to do is we're going to take off this air cleaner, this air intake right here. The way we're going to do that is we're going to take off that hose right there with a pair of pliers. We're going to take off this snorkel right here, and we're going to relocate that out of our way. And there should be a clamp down underneath the bottom right there, just like this one here, that we're going to unscrew, and we'll take this cover here off so we can gain access to it. We're going to unplug our sensor right here, just like that. Now you don't have to get this snorkel out. I'm just going to take it out so it gives us a little more room to work so you can see a little bit better. But you could leave it in there if you wanted to. We're just going to take this and pull it out. And now the clamp is actually down right here. And it's just like that other clamp that we took off that was right up on the top here. We're just going to loosen that. We're going to take off this hose right here. Be careful not to break it, because as hoses get older, they also get brittle. So you don't want to snap that line off. That line is actually connects up to our fuel pressure regulator right here. Next thing we're going to do now is we're going to disconnect that hose this air hose right here. We're going to reuse these clamps later on, so try not to break them. We're just going to twist the hose very little and pull at the same time. And the reason you're twisting and pulling at the same time is you don't want to break the hose. By twisting and pulling, it'll keep that hose from breaking. And we'll pull this off like that. The same thing up over here. Just like that. It's just a push pin that's inside there, just like that. Okay, now, be careful not to drop anything down inside here. You may want to just stick a rag in there so you don't have any problems with something falling in there by accident. I normally don't do it, but that's what you should do, just to make sure you don't drop anything in there. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to disconnect these two lines here. One is a feed and the other is the return. So we're just going to break those two loose right with a tiny bit penetrating oil on here, just to aid with the removal process. All right, then we just put our wrench on here, just like that. Just break it loose. Usually really not that tight. And be careful when you take them off that you don't have any residual fuel in there. Always make sure you have a rag handy just in case. Okay, nothing there. And doesn't feel like anything here either. Okay. You just pull right out. Now we may have to disconnect it right over here. It looks like we will. So that looks like it's about a 12 millimeter, so we're going to disconnect that line. I know I say this all the time, but don't lose that. We're just going to rock the lines a little bit to get them to move. Okay, we're going to come back on the side right over here because there's actually another bolt on the side right there as well. That actually holds the fuel line in place here. Okay, well again, we'll hold on to that bolt there. They're both the same, so it doesn't really matter. And now our fuel lines are disconnected. We just rock it and hold a little bit of pressure on it. And this we're just going to pull back. I think we're going to disconnect our cables here just so we can get that fuel rail up and out without any problems. So we're going to take this one here. And instead of taking these off here, we're just going to take out these two 10 millimeter bolts right here. I don't know if you can see that, but I'll bring you in there. I'll show you. See these two 10 millimeters here? We're going to take these out and we're just going to move this off to the side. It looks like somebody was in here once before, but that's it. Now remember, if you're ever trying to take it out and they feel like they're going to snap, don't force it. You don't want to break a bolt off, you'll be pulling out your hair. Okay. That gets our bracket out of there. And now we can just take these off. And now our fuel rail, our lines, our accelerator cable are already disconnected. And that's where a bungee cord comes in handy. We're just going to pull it off to the side just like this. And now we don't have to worry about anything laying over the top of the rail. These two we're going to pull back as well. We're going to grab another bungee cord for that. Now you don't have to bungee cord it back. You can just pull it back by hand, but I always like to get things out of the way. I am going to disconnect this other line right here, this vacuum line, this one. We're just going to put that down here. And now we're going to unscrew our fuel rail. One is here, and that should come right out then. So, all right, let me unscrew that. That's probably going to be a 13 or 14 millimeter. 13 millimeter. Hold on to this. And now we're just going to unplug our injectors. I'm going to bring you in there. I'm going to show you how to do it. But basically, if they don't come out now, it's okay. You see that little clip right there? We're just going to push that little clip in like that. Now, I need two hands to do it. We're just going to push this clip in right here, and then we're going to pull the injector plugs off. Same thing right here. Push it in. I hope you can see that. We're going to push in right there, and we're going to pull it off on all of them. All right, so that's what I'm going to do. what I'm doing now is I'm basically just pushing in that little pin that I showed you. And then we're going to pull the injector plug off. Sometimes they're a pain in the ass. Take your time, a pain in the rear end. Take your time because you don't want to break those clips off. As you can see, getting those off is sometimes a little pain in the rear end. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to pull that rail up, and I'm going to try it a little bit better. We're just going to grab the rail and just rock it and pull it out. And now I'm going to try to get that plug out a little bit better right here. Alright, so that's what the rail looks like. Now we're going to take it over here. We're going to take out these little clips right here. And we're going to remember where these plugs are all situated because that's where they have to go back on. So let's put this over on the bench and we'll continue over there. Okay, I just want to point this out to you before we go any further here. You want to make sure that you clean out any debris that you see inside these injector ports right here. So we're going to clean those out with a rag. We're going to make sure none of that stuff falls inside, and then we'll change these injectors. Okay, now we're going to take the injectors out. Now you want to make sure that you have the injector plugs in the same location. So if you're not going to remember where it is, get yourself a marker and just put a little mark on the rail so you know where each one of the injector plugs is going to face. All right, next thing we're going to do now is we're going to turn it over and we're going to take these clips out. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take off these clips here. You want to be careful that these clips don't go flying across the room and you lose them. So we're just going to pry these down just a little bit with a screwdriver. And we just take the clip off, just like this, and place it down. Same thing on all of them. Okay, and then we just take the fuel rail. Now you may leak a little bit of fuel, so have a rag underneath it, and you just take it and you pull the injector and rotate it, just like that. Okay, so that's all our injectors. Now I want to point something else out to you that's real important. Obviously, these are injectors. You want to make sure that that O-ring there came out of the engine and didn't get stuck in there. Now this one, you can see I pulled it out, but that O-ring didn't come out. The O-ring is actually stuck inside right here. So you just get in there with a scribe or a screwdriver and you just pull it out. Okay, so you take each one of the O-rings out. You want to be very careful that you don't damage anything by scratching it, so be very careful. Okay, and now we have all of the O-rings are out, and all of our O-rings are out on the injectors. Let's grab the new injectors. I'm going to show you what they look like. Now injectors will come with new O-rings as well. They will come with new O-rings. They usually are on there, which they are. You can see it has the new O-ring here and here. Now we're just going to match it up, of course, just to make sure, because you never know. Okay. All right, looks good. All right, so now we're going to take our injectors, we're just going to lay them out. We're going to get these out of here. We're going to get rid of all of our old O-rings as well. All right, these are all our new O-rings. I mean our new injectors. That packet is just trash, it doesn't matter. So we're going to lay each one of them out at the location of where they're going to go. Now, just so you know, injectors are all three the same. You don't have to worry about that. Okay. Now we're going to get some clean motor oil, and we're going to put a little bit of clean motor oil on both top and bottom O-rings right here. So let me grab some oil and we'll come back. Okay. Now, you don't need a lot of oil, you just need to have a little bit. So what we're going to do is we're just going to put some on our finger just like that, and we're going to put it around each one of the O-rings. Now a lot of guys use silicone. I've seen some guys use WD or any kind of lubricant like that. I always use motor oil because you don't have to worry about it causing any problem. All right, so you have each one of the O-rings now coated. Let's close this up so we don't have an accident. Okay. So now we know that that is where the injector plug has to go. So we take this and we just push this in, just like that. Now it is a little tight going in there, just so you know. Okay, so now we have all three of them, all four of them in. We're going to take our clips and we're going to put the clips back on just the way that they came off. We know that they were on this way, so that's the way we're going to put them back in. I will point this out to you. You can see there's a slight little, right there, there's a little slot in the injector where these clips lock in. Okay, so now that's our injectors. They're all marked and facing where they belong. Now we're just going to put a little bit more motor oil on here because I wiped some of it off, and then we're going to put this rail back in the car itself. So let me get a new pair of gloves and we'll come back and put it together. Okay, now we're going to take our fuel injection rail and we're going to put it right back in the way we previously took it out, being careful. Remember, we cleaned those out down there, so we don't want to knock any debris down inside there. And then we're just going to have slight pressure, and you'll feel it pop right in. And we're going to put that one bolt back in here. Now, just so you know, I am going to temporarily put this bolt back in, but we need to take this out later on. All right, but now we're going to tighten down that bolt right there. Okay. So now our fuel rail is back in, it's tightened down. Now we're going to plug each one of the injectors back on, and you're going to plug them on and you're going to wait to hear a snap when it locks in place. And sometimes it's difficult to get your fingers in there, such as this case. So you can get in there. Once you have it caught back in there, you can just push it down. And I'm pushing on top of here. I'm not touching those wires, just so you know. You don't want to take a chance on cutting one of the wires by accident. And you'll hear them snap in place. Okay. I always give a little tug back just to make sure it's caught, which it is. All right, now the next thing we're going to do, we're going to start putting our fuel rail back on right now. We're going to take this, put it over here. We're going to loosen up that bolt so we can get our fuel rail back on. And we're just going to put these in place over here. Don't force these down. Make sure you get them on nice and straight. You'll see when they're on straight because they turn in nice and easy. If it jams up, then there's a problem. But if you just rock the fuel line back and forth and turn it at the same time, it turns in. Now I'm not going to tighten these up tight yet because I want to catch everything else in place first. So we're just going to snug them down by hand, like this. And now by hand, we're going to put our bolt back in the fuel rail right here. And now that bolt for the fuel rail, I'm going to tighten it down. Okay. And now we're going to reattach that one bolt on the side over here. So now our fuel rail is tightened back up to where it's supposed to be. Now we're going to come back and tighten these up. You don't have to over tighten them because the actual, there's O-rings that actually keep it from leaking. So you're just snugging it down, both of them. Okay. We're going to reinstall our vacuum line where it was on the pressure regulator, and now we're going to take our cables and put them back on as well. Let's bring it over here like this, and then we're going to catch our cables back in there first. This calls for glasses so we can see what we're doing here. Turn this up, put our cable back in where it belongs, right here, and I'll let it pop back down, and now we can screw these 10mm bolts in by hand for now. Okay, next thing we're going to do now is we're going to reattach our cable for the transmission. We put it over the top like this. And now we take that little lock clip that we previously took off, and we're going to put that back on. Be careful not to drop it. cable for the transmission is now reconnected. All right, so now our fuel lines are all connected up and onto there. Now we're going to lay in our air breather assembly. I should say snorkel. We're going to take this off. Now we're going to lay this back inside there, and that is the clamp that we're going to tighten up right there. I'm going to put this hose back on here. Like that. Okay, and now we're going to tighten up that clamp. So that's it, we're ready to fire it up. First thing we're going to do is we're going to put that relay back in, and then we're going to turn the key off and on a couple times to pressurize the system. Alright, now we're just going to let it run for a little bit.